If you didn't know already, I am a STEM major pursuing a degree in psychology, and I'm going to be working in a research lab in the fall. I've always been analytical and enjoyed the process of research and the scientific method. In addition to my love of science, I also love Fallout New Vegas, a game where science plays a very important role. In fact, there's an entire DLC dedicated to goofy science fiction B-movies called Old World Blues, featuring a gaggle of nerdy scientist brains in robot bodies called the Think Tank. However, what if you wanted to beat that DLC in a way that would make the Think Tank proud? Can you beat Old World Blues with the power of science? Now, you're certainly asking, what the heck does that mean? Well, maybe if you shut up and let me explain, you'll find out. The rules are simple. Number 1, I must have 10 intelligence at character creation, along with science as a tagged skill. Number 2, I need to have acquired 100 science skill throughout the playthrough of Old World Blues. Number 3, I can only wear outfits that boost my science skill, such as scientist scrubs or outfits. Number 4, I can only use scientist gloves as weapons, but I may use any variant. And number 5, I must select every single science dialogue option possible. Sid the Science Kid was born in Doc Mitchell's house, waking up from his gunshot with a burning desire to increase his knowledge. We pick out our special stats for the most lopsided build you've ever seen, and then choose mostly scientific dialogue choices through the character creation process. We select science, unarmed, and repair as our tag skills, which will soon make sense. I drop all my stuff in Doc Mitchell's house, since this stuff isn't scientific at all and doesn't come from Old World Blues. However, I decide it would be fair to use my science skill to create some stimpaks at the chemistry station before I leave to use in case I run into trouble on the way there, but I don't end up needing them, thankfully. I dropped them all next to the satellite, waited for midnight, and then was teleported to the Big MT. That's right, bitch. We're doing this at level 1. I got up during the long-ass narration sequence, and when I got back, I was in a patient gown and lacking 3 major organs. I headed down to the Think Tank to get the sink back online, and to gather up any items that may be of use to me. I was assailed by an extremely long dialogue section with the 5 scientists, but I do get the sink AI turned on. I noticed that the sink had a scientist glove for sale, and as I looked around my apartment for things to sell to obtain it, I did find mad scientist scrubs. I didn't have enough money, so I went back down to, and I quote, "Whatever the fuck's not nailed down, we're taking." It was down here that I actually found a scientist glove and more scientist scrubs to repair my own scrubs. I gathered some good stuff, including Dr. Klein's glasses, which I decided would be okay to wear because they would normally increase my intelligence if I wasn't already at 10, which would increase my science skill. I decided I would leave out into the Big Empty at large to test out my new weapons and armor. And the lobotomites promptly fucked me the fuck up. When I loaded back in there at the entrance, I decided to repair/sell as much as I could to acquire more healing items, but I would definitely still have trouble on attempt 2. However, a far more powerful enemy emerged on this run, the game itself. Wow, thanks game. Fucking sweet. New Vegas had a New Vegas moment and decided to crash my game, which was really fucking awesome. Thankfully, I had just dropped a quick save, and the stream had surprisingly gone for almost 55 minutes without a crash. I consider that a minor miracle. I loaded back in, and I decided my first objective was going to be the Autodoc personality chip, so that way I would have some method of healing any rads, crippled limbs, or lost HP. However, this chip was in a medical facility filled with robots that seemed to prefer inflicting wounds instead of healing them. It took multiple attempts with save scumming, but we eventually grabbed the chip, left the facility, and tried to fast travel back to the sink. When my game crashed, yet again, this was the second time in less than 5 minutes. Fuck New Vegas. We then attempted to go into another building in search of the smart lights, but the sonic emitter wasn't upgraded enough to bring down that shield. Also, I forgot to mention the emitter until now. We're only using it for taking down shields and not enemies, okay? I then decided that the biological research station personality chip would make sense as it fits the whole scientist theme. So I headed for the X-22 Botanical Garden. This was the biggest mistake so far. The spore carriers clobbered me so hard and they were so fast that I could not run away with the chip without them killing me. So I would have to come back later. After loading back a long ways back, I fought my first trauma harnesses and they basically bodied me as well. So hard that I actually checked the difficulty and I found out that I was still on hard from my own personal playthroughs. I bumped it down to normal and we were having a much easier time, but we're still massively underleveled. So I went into the think tank to get some more levels. Exhausting all the dialogue choices I could got me up to level 4, which left us much better off in our next combat encounter with some melee lobotomites. I used clever positioning to avoid their attacks and only fight when I wanted to, which let me finally beat them and then head back inside to get all my gear repaired and all my miscellaneous stuff sold, which made us very rich. After this point, I headed for a railway station, got ambushed by Night Stalkers and lobotomites, and then my power went out, ending the first stream for good. I loaded back into the game and I decided to head towards the X8 facility until I got killed, at which point I decided to go to Higgs Village instead. Within the village lies Dr. Klein's glove and scrubs, which I figured would be a good upgrade for my current gear, along with evidence of Gabe's existence for Dr. Boris. However, since I chose Wild Wasteland, there was also a tiny Deathclaw named Stripe who I had to run around avoiding. After taking entirely too long, I finally looted everything in the village and headed back to sell all the junk I had gathered. After that, I decided it was time to do more of the main story, and one place I could gather some of the personality chips for the Sync AI while progressing the quest was the X2 transmitter. I went to the roof and gathered the antenna, and one of my chatters said that it would be acceptable for me to call it a science weapon, but I stuck to my guns. Metaphorically speaking, I can't use guns in this run. I then found the first lights, which is personality chip, before I left. After that, I'd leveled up a bit and I decided it was time to revisit the X8 facility. I made my way over there and began taking the high school test. Dr. Boris wants you all to know that Richie Marcus likes balls, by the way. This was around the point where my 10 luck was really starting to help out. Dr. Klein's glove has an effect where, upon critting, the target loses a few points of strength and a few points from their energy weapons score, so this was perfect for the Roboscorpions and the Cyberdogs. After that, it was time to fight Gabe. I think he was so aggressive towards me because I was wearing scrubs and a latex glove, so I probably looked like a veterinarian about to express his anal glands. I really was dreading the Gabe boss fight since I went into this DLC with no gear or healing supplies when normally you have access to your entire inventory upon starting the DLC. Turns out I was worried for nothing. I got his bark, then I resolved to come back for the upgraded emitter so I can get through the force fields. When I made it outside, there were more scorpions, and then my game crashed again. Losing patience once more, I ended the stream. This is the really annoying part about New Vegas. It crashes very often, and even upon starting the game, I can't load into a save from the main menu. I have to start a new game and then load into an old save from the pause menu. I wish I was better at modding games because I've heard there are certain mods that fix these issues. If you can walk me through installing these mods, let me know. My Discord server is in the link tree in the description. When I load back in, it has actually been a few months since I last played this run. This semester was pretty rough for old Thuggy Bear. I exited the X8 facility into the loving pincers of the Roboscorpions, which I had forgotten about, then quickly ran onto a pipe and got my leg blown up by a frag mine, then started hugging the side of the pipe since there was a rock face in my way. This allowed me to basically float along the side of the pipe, which got me away from my enemies. I would continue to use this exploit for the rest of the night, since I would be coming back to X8 multiple times. I walked back into the sink and slept to fully heal, where I was attacked in real life by flies. And this was another thing that bothered me all night. I went and told Dr. Boris about Gabe, tried to use my pulse pistol to break a force field, then realized I would have to continue the X8 questline to get that upgrade. This sent me down a rabbit hole for the rest of the night, where I decided I would do all the tests for the 2 main research facilities. I finished the X8 facility advanced test, although I was starting to struggle due to our weapon and armor degrading, and it's not that great a build to begin with. I did take the Nerd Rage perk here, which thematically fits the build, even though I wouldn't be able to take advantage of it much. After all, if my HP is low enough for the effects to proc, it's usually because I'm fighting an enemy which would take me out in one hit after that. All in all, this test took pretty long, and that was partially because I thoughtlessly used the pulse gun to take out a turret that was sitting on a shield and had to redo it. Oh boy, Kale, you're really not selling the whole smart scientist angle here. When I went back to the sink from there, I noticed a problem. Dr. Klein's glove and suit were becoming ridiculously expensive to repair. I thought I had a lot of caps by this point, but I only had barely enough for the repair of the suit after I sold a bunch of stuff. This is a huge issue, and it was my main source of worry. After all, the more I fought, the more my stuff would be damaged, and the more I would have to spend to fix it. Upgrade in hand, I went to the X12 warehouse, where our favorite light switch was housed. Unfortunately, also in residence was the Master Trauma Harness with a K9000 Cyberdog gun and other trauma harness reinforcements. I finished off the bastard skellies in their Buzz Lightyear suits, grabbed the personality chip, and started heading west towards the X13 Center. However, I was ambushed by both lobotomites and Night Stalkers, and these stupid little snake dogs would be one of the biggest pains in my tuchus for the rest of this playthrough. They do ridiculous damage with their bites, and every time I fought them, I would have to head back to the sink to heal. However, they were slowly but surely filling up my XP bar bit by bit. On the way, I cheesed a few night fuckers on top of a pipe, then found myself at the toxin research facility where I could find the corrosive glove. Unfortunately, I also found yet more trauma harnesses. I fought them all and won, then made it to the X13 facility. I grabbed the key to the kennel in the X8 facility, then headed over there to complete the test using the unusual specimens, which were, guess what? More fucking Night Stalkers. However, even before that, I made a bit of a blunder, depending on how you see it. I accidentally pressed the Release the Cyberdogs option on the terminal instead of the Release Unknown Specimens button, meaning I did the test again with no progression of the quest line, but it did give a level up to 12, where we took the Piercing Strike perk, which I thought I sorely needed. I then completed the test, released the unknown specimens, and spent about 20 minutes on the basic version of this test. I found a pretty good cheesing strat to clear out the top floor where I would run into the room, turn off the turret, get aggro, then run back behind this fenced-in area where the turret could commit animal abuse. Since the Night Stalkers couldn't get me or the turret, even though they could easily fit through the gap in the fence, they would simply run away, so I could just turn the turret back off and run to freedom. On the way home, I fought a Cazador and Lobotomite at the same time and won. This build is finally starting to work. I did a quick little detour to try and test my build against the Spore Carriers and try to gather the rest of the personality chips, but that was not going to work just yet. I went back to the sink, and given how bad the repair problem is, I had to make an executive decision. We would lower the game to easy until we got the jury-rigging perk, otherwise all of our stuff would break. This challenge doesn't come from the difficulty setting of the game, but rather the rule set. But if you want to call me a baby back bitch in the comments, feel free to. Back to the X8 facility! The advanced test was a slog, even on a lower difficulty. I had switched to using the corrosive glove to try and keep Klein's glove in case of emergencies, and it was not doing the work I needed it to. This test took me another 10 minutes, and all for a level up and a paltry 10% increased damage on Night Stalkers. At least I could kill them 10% faster to avenge all the time they wasted. For context, once I killed all the Robo-Brains and turrets, all 4 tests at the X-13 facility took me about 15 minutes. Let's talk about that, because it was sort of interesting. For starters, we built the suit and got ready to take the test, and here I thought it was mandatory to have the suit on for the test, but did you know you don't need it? I was really sad that I had my favorite piece of armor in New Vegas, but I couldn't equip it. I could have used the companionship.
There's a lady in my head who calls me Stud Muffin.
Shut up!
However, instead of being flirted with in the game, I was flirted with in real life when my roommate came in and gave me a shoulder rub. Thanks, Pookie. I finished the test relatively easily, and since I had taken the Chadley jury rigging perk, I could then pick up some old weapons and outfits I had sold to the Sync AI, and finally repair my items without spending an exorbitant amount of caps. I then took a nap in my bed and ended the stream there. I turn on the stream again, and this time, with all 3 technologies in hand, and the ending finally available, I decided to go look for the other personality chips instead, because I have been hoarding a metric shit ton of coffee mugs for this entire DLC, and I thought it'd be rude if I just let Muggy stay sitting in the corner of my bedroom without getting to destroy them for me. See guys, it's not slavery, he likes doing unpaid labor for me. Okay, rapid fire, here we go. I went to the Botanical Gardens to get the Biological Research Station chip, beating the spore carriers that had given me so much trouble in the process. I checked out the train tunnel for the light switch and got PTSD flashbacks to the Fallout 3 Metro since they reused some assets from those tunnels. I grabbed the upgrade for the sink from the Magneto-Hydraulics complex, and by sink I mean like the actual thing that pours water, and side note, that is a really strange choice to name the whole apartment after. I picked up Muggy from the back of the truck, and then I headed to the Cuckoo's Nest so that one could fly over it, and also to grab the toaster chip. With all these chips installed, I was finally ready to head to the ending after I went and grabbed the sterilizer glove from the medical facility. At least this place was a lot easier now than it was earlier on in the run, because this thing was not worth it. I tested it on the Super Ego outside because it carries an additional copy of the glove, and I don't think I got the fire effect to proc once, even with my extraordinarily high luck. After that debacle, I went inside the boss fight arena, turned on the drones and turrets, then shut down the giant Robo-Scorpion with complete ease due to my immense brain and hacking skills. I then went inside, grabbed Mobius's scrubs and glove, chatted with my brain, which was surreal for both parties, and then I convinced him to go with me and reunite with my body. After making up my mind about my brain, I accidentally screwed myself out of the last big science check because it was tied to a speech check, and I had accidentally invested all my points in medicine right before. Having no other option other than spending 2 hours grinding in the Big Empty, which may not have given me enough XP to level up my speech enough anyway, I decided I would just use console commands to buff my speech just this one time. I did do 2 run-throughs where I killed the think tank, and it was extremely easy and got me more XP, so I'm pretty sure the speech check didn't really save me much trouble. I just thought it was narratively unsatisfying. If you think that's lame, I agree with you, but trust me, it wouldn't have been worth the hassle and the recording. It was 11:30 p.m. on Thanksgiving night, and I had to get this done and out before the end of the year. This may have saved you guys a week or two, so I hope you don't mind. I then started writing the previous paragraph while the ending slideshow played. Then I headed back into the sink, where my new friends congratulated me on my hard work in proving that yes, you can beat Old World Blues with the power of science! But we have our eyes on something much bigger. Stay tuned. Thank you all so much for watching. This video was supposed to be out before midterms even started, but instead you're getting it as an early Christmas present from your old pal Thuggy. So if you made it this far, spread some holiday cheer in the comment section down below. If you want to hang out with fans of the channel, watch movies with me, or even suggest a run of your own, the best place for that is in my Discord server, which you will find in the link tree down in the description. That's also where you'll find my Twitch channel, where I film these runs live, and my Patreon, where I put the VODs of every challenge run. They're available early for my Epic Gamer patrons while I work on the video, and then I make them free to all members when the video comes out. Thank you again so much for watching. Hope you had a great year in 2024, and I hope we can continue having a great year in 2025. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, thank you, and I'll see you in the next run.